Gauranga. All right. Here we go. I am live. I know I'm live. If I wasn't live, I'd be dead. So, someone just, Gopal just sent me a message and said, "You're live." I know I'm live. So, at least I know that, if nothing else. All right, so we're going to start. Thank you all for joining us again for our evening Gita excursion. And as usual, we start by chanting Jai Radha Madhava. Let me just, whoops, some people are chatting. I know my camera wasn't broadcasting, Gopal, because I had it off, so you wouldn't see me while I was doing everything. So, okay. So give me a second. Manage participants. Oh, let me just do this. Close. And we'll mute everybody for right now. All right. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Malaba Hiri Bharadhati Gopi Jana Malabha Hiri Bharadhati Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Kiri Bharadhati Gopi Jana Malaba Giri Bharadhati Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Paravatikacharya also Teta Satishi Shimad, His Divine Grace Savaya Chadananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Hridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopinath Shaima Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuram Ki Jai Jagannatha Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri, Guru, and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premananda. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tidamani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharni Nivasesha Shunyavadi Pasyatavi Jatarni Om Gana Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshuran Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigurve Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torch light of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So we're continuing with the Bhagavad Gita, the 4th chapter, and today's text that we start with is the 25th text in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. 4th chapter is Transcendental Knowledge. Here we go. So here we are with the 25th text. And let me just clear the screen so I can see it. So, Daivam evapare yagyam yogena paripashyate brahmagna vapare yagnam yagnena evapopajuvate. Daivam, in worshipping the demigods, Eva, like this. Apare, some others, yagnam, sacrifices, yoginaha, mystics. Paripasate, worship perfectly, Brahma, of the absolute truth. Agnau, in the fire. Apare, others. Yagnam, sacrifice, yagnena, by sacrifice, Eva, thus. Upajuvati, offer. Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some of them offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. In other words, some yogis worship the demigods and sacrifice to them. That's very easy to understand. And some yogis actually worship Krishna. As described above, a person engaged in discharging duties in Krishna consciousness is also called a perfect yogi or first-class mystic. But there are others also who perform similar sacrifices in the worship of demigods, and still others who sacrifice to the Supreme Brahman or the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord. So sometimes Krishna is known as the Supreme Brahman or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there are different kinds of sacrifices in terms of different categories. Such different categories of sacrifice by different types of performers only superficially demark varieties of sacrifice. Factually, sacrifice means to satisfy the Supreme Lord Vishnu, who is also known as Yajna. The word Yajna means sacrifice. All the different varieties of sacrifice can be placed within two primary divisions, namely sacrifice of worldly possessions and sacrifice in pursuit of transcendental knowledge. Those who are in Krishna consciousness sacrifice all material possessions for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, while others who want some temporary material happiness sacrifice their material possessions to satisfy demigods such as Indra, the sun god, etc. Let me unpack that. So people who are in Krishna consciousness, when it says sacrifice all material possessions, that doesn't mean they give them up and they walk around the streets like a beggar. They just use all their material possessions in Krishna's service, which we described yesterday as yukta vairagya. Yukta vairagya means the renunciation of understanding everything belongs to Krishna and everything is meant for his satisfaction. So you can want more and more material possessions to satisfy Krishna. Like I gave the example of Prabhupada, who actually was interested in having more temples, more money for the satisfaction of Krishna, not for the satisfaction of himself. And other people who want temporary material happiness sacrifice material possessions. That means just give things to satisfy the demigods so that they will get more material possessions. So the motivation is completely different. And others who are impersonalists sacrifice their identity by merging into the existence of the impersonal Brahman. That's a terrible sacrifice. Actually, the acharyas, one acharya, Prabhupada Saraswati, said, Kaivalya Narakayate. He said, that's hell, basically. To give up your identity is hell. To try to merge is hell. That's real hell. The demigods are powerful living entities appointed by the Supreme Lord for the maintenance and supervision of all material functions like the heating, watering, and lighting of the universe. Just like there is a department of water, department of sanitation, the garbage men. And so on the universal level, there are different entities in charge of these things. And those who are interested in material benefits worship the demigods by various sacrifices according to Vedic rituals. They are called Valvishvara Varya, believers in many gods. And sometimes you'll see that people from India, they'll go into the temple and they'll look at the altar and say, the gods. Or you'll go into a Hindu temple and you'll see like 20, 30, or even 40, if it happens to be a really big temple, different statues of different personalities. And everybody gets their own god. And there's I think it's 33 million demigods. That's a lot. So if you were actually to have a good Hindu temple, you'd have to have 33 million of them there. That would be a problem, big problem. But others who worship the demigods as temporary sacrifice their individual selves in the supreme fire and thus end their individual existences by merging the existence of the supreme. Actually, they don't actually end their individual existences. They feel that they have. I mean, just let's clarify what Prabhupada said. Because you cannot merge into the supreme. It appears that they've merged. The example given in the Vedic literatures and by Prabhupada is that it appears that when a green parrot, and you see this in India all the time, enters a green tree with green leaves, the parrot has disappeared. That is called camouflage. Now, anybody who's joined the army or any other armed services knows that you put on camouflage outfits so that when you go in the forest, hopefully the enemy won't see you, and also you paint your face different colors according to the forest colors so the enemy won't see you. But you haven't merged into the forest. In the same way the soul hasn't merged into the existence of the Supreme, but they can enter into that existence of the Supreme, thinking themselves having merged in the existence of the Supreme, and ultimately, according to the Bhagavatam, they pop out when they get kind of frustrated. It's like telling a child, just sit in the corner and don't do anything. Ultimately, the child will get very frustrated. Such impersonalists sacrifice their time in philosophical speculation to understand the transcendental nature of the Supreme. In other words, the fruit of workers sacrifice their material possessions for material enjoyment. Now here he's talking about a different type of fruit of workers. They use their material possessions for material enjoyment, for their money, whereas the impersonalist sacrifices his material designations with a view to merging into the existence of the Supreme. For the impersonalist, the fire altar of sacrifice is the Supreme Brahman, and the offering is the self being consumed by the fire of Brahman. Yuck. In other words, you just like become one with the Brahman. Brahman is the spirit, and the individual entity is just an illusion. Of course, they don't explain how the individual entity or the sense of individual identity became prominent. They don't explain that. And they don't explain what influenced the Supreme Brahman. I mean, there's a lot of gaps in the impersonalist philosophy. The Krishna conscious person like Arjuna, however, sacrifices everything for the satisfaction of Krishna, who is actually the Supreme Brahman. But not the Supreme Impersonal Brahman. He's the Supreme Parabrahman. That's another way to understand this verse. And thus all his material possessions, as well as his own self, everything is sacrificed for Krishna. So as I mentioned before, it doesn't mean that Arjuna gave up everything and walked around like a mendicant. He just utilized his skills, his bow and arrows, his chariot, everything for Krishna. Thus, he is the first-class yogi, but he does not lose his individual existence. So text 26. Shrodradinendriyan yanyehi samyamadnishu juvati Shabdadin vishayan anya indriyagnishu juvati. Shrotra adani, such as the hearing process, indriyani, senses, anye, others, samyama, of restraint, agnishu, in the fire, in the fires, juvati, offer, shabda adin, sound, vibration, etc., vishayan, objects of sense gratification, anye, others, indriya, of the sense organs, agnishu, in the fires, juvati, they sacrifice. Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, I'll explain what that is in a second, sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control. And others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the object of senses in the fire of the senses. So here we're getting into what's called varnashram. Unadulterated brahmacharis means those who remain single their whole lives. And so they just get engaged in hearing and chanting, and their sensory activity is rather restrained. And then the householders, that's grahastashram, they engage in more sensory activity, but they're sacrificing their sensory activities and the objects of their senses in Krishna's service, in the fire of the senses. So, very poetic here. The members of the four divisions of human society, namely brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasi, that means single student, married, retired, and sannyasi, renounced order, like myself, are all meant to become perfect yogis or transcendentalists. Since human life is not meant for our enjoying sense gratification like the animals, the four orders of human life are so arranged that one may become perfect in spiritual life. So, someone can become perfect in any of those orders. Lord Chaitanya spoke very strongly about this when people wanted to give up, let's say, their household life and just follow him. Lord Chaitanya just said, Stani stata shudikatam tan van manopya, which means just stay where you are and do bhakti yoga. And then also share Krishna consciousness with others. So everybody can become perfect, whatever your varna, whatever your ashram. Varna means, of course, the work that you do, that you're a teacher, that you're an administrator, that you're a businessman or a farmer or just a plain old worker with your hands, you become perfect. No one's better than anyone else. Everyone is highly respected as long as they are giving the results of their work to Krishna and cultivating bhakti. And then, of course, the four social orders right here, ashrams. So anyway, since human life is not meant for our joyous sense gratification, like we read that, the brahmacharis are students under the care of a bona fide spiritual master, control the mind by abstaining from sense gratification. Wow. A brahmachari hears only words concerning Krishna consciousness. Hearing is the basic principle for understanding. Therefore, the pure brahmachari engages fully in Hare Namanu Kirtanam, chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord. He restrains himself from the vibrations of material sounds, and his hearing is engaged in the transcendental sound vibration of Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So, even my own past, I used to be a brahmachari many years ago, in 1971, and that's what I did. I was just fully engaged in just hearing and chanting, and basically didn't even pay attention to the news for a long period of time. It was just like complete absorption in Krishna consciousness as a very simple, humble soul. And I used to be humble. So similarly, the householders who have some license for sense gratification perform acts with great restraint. Sex life, intoxication, meeting are general tendencies of human society, but a regulated household does not indulge in unrestricted sex life and other sense gratification. Marriage on the principles of religious life is therefore current in all civilized human society because that is the way for restricted sex life. This restricted, unattached sex life is also kind of yajna because the restricted householder sacrifices a general tendency towards sense gratification for higher transcendental life. And actually, householders have other duties too. It's not just like their whole life is centered around the sex life, but the main function the householders have in the Vedic society, of course, it depends on their varna too. They may be teaching, but if the householders have any sort of income, the function that they perform is to maintain the other social orders. So, next text. Sarvan indriya karmani prana karmani chappare atma samyama yogadno juvati jnana dipite. Sarvani, of all, indriya, the senses, karmani, functions, prana karmani, functions of the life breath, cha, also, apare, others, atma samyama, for controlling the mind, yoga, the linking process, agno, and the fire of, juvati, offer, jnana dipite, because of the urge for self-realization. Others who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of the mind and senses offer the functions of all the senses and of the life breath as oblations into the fire of the controlled mind. So, of course, this is in reference to the Hatha Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga system, which we're going to describe in a second. The yoga system conceived of Patanjali, he's, of course, the author of the Yoga Sutras. In the Yoga Sutra, there it is mentioned, Patanjali, the soul is called Pratyagatma and Paragatma. As long as the soul is attached to sense enjoyment, it is called Paragatma, but as soon as the same soul becomes detached from such sense enjoyment, it is called Pratyagatma. The soul is subjected to the functions of the 10 kinds of air at work within the body, and this is perceived through the breathing system. The Patanjali system of yoga instructs one how to control the functions of the body's airs in a technical manner, so that ultimately all the functions of the air within become favorable for purifying the soul of material attachment. According to this yoga system, Pratyagatma is the ultimate goal. This Pratyagatma is withdrawn from activities in matter. The senses interact with the sense objects like the ear for hearing, eyes for seeing, nose for smelling, tongue for tasting, hand for touching, and all of them are thus engaged in activities outside the self. They are called the functions of the prana vayu. Prana vayu means the air, the life air. So we have all these 10 life airs that were described previously. And he probably just mentioned several of them here. The apana vayu goes downwards. Vyana vayu acts to shrink and expand. Samana vayu adjusts equilibrium. Udana vayu goes upward, and when one is enlightened, one engages. All these in searching for self-realization. So, also according to the Ayurvedic system, these life airs control like the mental activities, the physical activities, and an expert Ayurvedic physician can take your wrist and do this with his fingers and tell you what your nature is and what diseases you have. And it's quite interesting how expert people are. Once upon a time, I went to someone who was expert, and I knew what my problem was. The problem, of course, was a hernia. And I didn't tell him. I said, look, tell me what my problem is. And he touched like this. I said, you have a hernia. And he didn't examine it. I mean, the hernia is down further in the body. So it's quite interesting that the Ayurvedic physician could figure this out, but it's due to the life airs in the body. And the yogi controls these life airs. And so gradually the yogi uses certain types of Hatha yogis use these life airs to leave the body through the Brahmarandra, which is the hole on the top of the head. So yogis generally leave the body, boop, they pop out of there. But devotees are not concerned so much about that. In many cases, they leave the body through the mouth because they're not concerned, because they can control everything by their love and devotion, not by the strength of yam, niyam, Asana, pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, jhana, samadhi. These are the eightfold processes of yoga, like restrictions, positive injunctions, like go to a secluded place, uh, sit down in certain postures, breathe in a certain way in your nose, pranayam, withdraw the senses, fix your mind, meditate, jhana, meditate, and finally samadhi, be absorbed in that particular object. So devotee does everything automatically just by love, because love is a stronger force. So we don't have to worry about that. So a devotee doesn't worry about which aperture he leaves the body in. However, those who are intoxicated leave the body through the lower aperture at the rear end. And that's why you find many of these people who die under intoxication, such as famous musicians, not all famous musicians, some of them are devotees, leave the body when they're in, hate to mention this, but anyway, they're in the bathroom. So, next verse. Dravya yagyastapo yagna yogan yagnastapare swatyaya jnana yagyascha yataya samshitavataha. Dravya yagna, sacrifice in one's possessions, tapa yagna, sacrifice in austerities, yoga yagna, sacrifice in eightfold mysticism, tata, thus apare others, swadhyaya, sacrifice in the study of the Vedas, jnana, yajnaha, sacrifice in advancement of transcendental knowledge, cha, also, yatayaha, enlightened persons, samshitavataha, taken to strict vows. Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge. Whew. Sounds really difficult. Thank God we don't have to do all those things. The sacrifices may be fit into various divisions. There are persons who are sacrificing their possessions in the form of various kinds of charities. In India, the rich mercantile community or princely orders open various kinds of charitable institutions like Dharma Shala, that means a place where you can stay. Anakshetra, that means a place where you can eat. Atiti Shala, that means you come uninvited, you'll be received nicely. Anatalaya and Vidyapitha, a place of knowledge. In other countries, too, there are many hospitals, old age homes, similar charitable foundations meant for distributing food, education, and medical treatment free to the poor. All these charitable activities are called Dravya Maya Yajna. There are others who, for higher elevation in life or for promotion to higher planets within the universe, voluntarily accept many kinds of austerities such as Chandrayana and Chaturmasha. Chandrayana is a type of sacrifice of certain moon cycles. And Chaturmasha refers to certain 4 months of the year where one undergoes really severe austerities during those 4 months. And sometimes during those 4 months, they don't shave. Of course, that refers to a man, obviously. They don't shave. They may just eat once a day, unspiced food, no sweets, certainly. And the way they eat is they put a plate on the floor or put the food on the floor, maybe on a leaf plate, and they put their hands behind their back and they go down like a duck. And they go down once. And what they leave over, they leave over. They only can eat what they eat or during the one time down. It's very austere. It's good, actually, for losing weight. One could try that. So anyway, so these are different types of austerities not recommended for us. These are external austerities that may help one control your senses, but it's a long process. Many lifetimes. These processes entail severe vows for conducting life under certain rigid rules. For example, here Prabhupada mentions this. Under the Chaturmasha vow, the candidate does not shave for 4 months during the year, July to October. Now, you may say, what's wrong with growing a beard? Well, I got news for you. That's really the hot, muggy season in India. And when it's hot in India, it's not unlike anything you've ever experienced in the Western world. I've been there during that time. It's like, in Fahrenheit. It's like 125 to 130 degrees out and superhuman, humid, not superhuman. I wish I was superhuman, but anyway, super humid. So you go out, you can't go out after 8 o'clock in the morning. The Indian people, when the British were occupying India, used to make fun of the British who went out during the day, and they would say the only people who should go out during the day are mad dogs and Englishmen. I think that statement comes from Rudyard Kipling. So anyway, it's hot, so you just have this horrible hair on your face for 4 months, and it's so hot, and you can't eat certain things. No, basically almost no cooked food, or you can have some boiled food, but just not tasty, no salt, no sugar, nothing really tasty. You can only eat once a day in the manner that I just talked about, such as in the manner of a duck. Sacrifice of the comforts of life such sacrifice of the comforts of life is called tapo maya yajna. Don't have to do it, don't worry. There are still others who engage themselves in different kinds of mystic yogas, like the Patanjali system, for merging into the existence of the Absolute, or Hatha Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga for particular perfections. And some travel to all the sanctified places of pilgrimage. All these practices are called yoga yajna, or the sacrifice of yoga, sacrifice for a certain type of perfection in the material world. There are others who engage themselves in the studies of different Vedic literatures, specifically the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutras, or the Sankhya philosophy. All these are called Swadhyaya Yajna, or engagement in the sacrifice of studies. All these yogis are faithfully engaged in different types of sacrifice and are seeking a higher status of life. Krishna consciousness, however, is different from these because it is direct service to the Supreme Lord. Krishna consciousness cannot be attained by any one of the above-mentioned types of sacrifice, but can be attained only by the mercy of the Lord and his bona fide devotees. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is transcendental. So Krishna consciousness basically means to satisfy Krishna. Very easy. You satisfy Krishna, and then Krishna gives you everything. Satisfy Krishna by love. Love is a stronger force, and that's what I've been saying all along. That love is the strongest force. It's stronger than tapasya, austerity. It's stronger than any of the yoga practices. It's stronger than whatever you study. And Krishna is only pleased with love. Krishna says, Bhajya mam amijanati yavanyas chasmi tatvata. Only by devotion can I be known. Just like if you went to Prabhupada. Let's talk about Prabhupada for a second. If you were to go to Prabhupada and say to Prabhupada, I just did this amazing austerity. I didn't eat for a whole month. Prabhupada would say, what nonsense. What practical thing did you do for Krishna? Did you bring others to Krishna consciousness? What did you do? And that's what Prabhupada wanted to see. And that's what pleases Krishna. It doesn't please Krishna that you torture your body or you twist your body in different ways. It doesn't please Krishna. I mean, it may help you focus your mind, whatever. But what actually pleases Krishna is when you serve him and when you chant his holy names. Text 29. Apane juvati pranam, prane panam atapare, pranapana gati rudva, pranayama parayanaha, apare nityatahara, pranam prane shujuvati. Apane, in the air which acts downward, juvati, offered, pranam, the air which acts outward, prane, in the air going outward. Apanam, the air going downward, tata, as also apare, others, prana, of the air going outward, apana, and the air going downward, gati, the movement, rudva, checking, prana, ayama, trance-induced by stopping all breathing, parayanaha, so inclined, apare, others, nigata, having controlled, ahara, eating, pranan, the outgoing air, juvati, sacrifice. Translation. Still others who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance. Practice by offering the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming, and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. Now, don't ask me how to do that because I never did it. But Prabhupada said that there are many yogis who can actually stop their breathing. And by stopping or slowing down the breathing to almost non-existent, they can live much, much longer. Because karmically, we have a certain amount of breaths that we are given in each lifetime. So let's say we're given 10 billion breaths. So every time we go, it's one less, another less, another less. So if I can just somehow or other breathe once every year, I can live a long time. Actually, if I have 10 billion breaths and I breathe once a year, that means 10 billion years. Pretty good, but what's the use? And I gave the example before that frogs can do that too. They're very good yogis because during the winter they can go into the ice, into the mud and the banks of the river and remain. And then when the ice thaws out, there's the frogs and all the little baby tadpoles are born. So that's really not so amazing. But yogis can do that. And yogis have other powers too. In the Bhagavatam, it lists the powers that one can get from the yoga system. One can become very small. One can become very big, Mahima City. One can reach out to other planets to get anything you want, or other places to get anything you want. That's called Prapti City. Laghima City means become very light. So these are different cities that one can get, or powers that one can get through the different yoga practices. Of course, these cities are sort of like a deviation from the actual goal of yoga, which is to know Krishna and love Krishna. This system of yoga for controlling the breathing process is called pranayam. In the beginning, it is practiced in the Hatha Yoga system through different sitting postures. All of these processes are recommended for controlling the senses and for advancement and spiritualization. This practice involves controlling the airs within the body so as to reverse the directions of their passage. The apana air goes downward and the prana air goes up. The pranayam yogi practices breathing the opposite way until the currents are neutralized into puraka equilibrium. Offering the exhaled breath into the inhaled breath is called rechaka. When both air currents are completely stopped, one is said to be in kumbhaka yoga. By practice of kumbhaka yoga, one can increase the duration of life for perfection in spiritual realization. I mentioned that. The intelligent yogi is interested in attaining perfection in one life without waiting for the next. For by practicing kumbhaka yoga, yogis increase the duration of life by many, many years. A Krishna-conscious person, however, being always situated in the transcendental loving of the service of the Lord, automatically becomes the controller of the senses. His senses, being always engaged in the service of Krishna, have no chance of becoming otherwise engaged. And let me explain, again, it's by love. Because he loves Krishna, he doesn't want to do anything that doesn't please Krishna. And Krishna's in the heart. Krishna's observing the person all the time. So then it's easy to control the senses. If you really love someone, that's the proof. Your actions are the proof of your heart state. So at the end of life, whereas if someone is just doing this yoga to get liberated, then there's not that force of love. So he can be deviated at any minute by some attractive feature. And there's so many examples of yogis who were meditating and they became deviated by something like Vishwamitra Muni. He was meditating and all of a sudden Menaka comes. He's meditating in the water, underwater, and he heard the ankle bells of Menaka and he jumped or dove out of the water because his mind just got attracted. But if one has love, even if there was some attraction, it's just like, my love is more important. one is able to tolerate so many things, like a mother is able to tolerate so many things because of love. And sometimes I give the example how the mother is able to tolerate changing the baby's diapers. And because she loves the baby. I mean, if you ask me to do it, I will probably at least vomit at the same time or run away screaming because it's so repulsive. I know you mothers won't like that statement. But for the mother, because there's love, it's not repulsive. And it's interesting. Let me tell the story. There was one of my godbrothers, Abhiram Prabhu, who was taking care of Prabhupada at the end of Prabhupada's manifest pastimes. And while he was taking care of Prabhupada, he had to bathe Prabhupada and probably couldn't move. So obviously there was cleaning and, there's other things that he had to clean of Prabhupada's, bodily excretions and everything. And Prabhupada wanted to see if he was actually doing it out of love. And so Prabhupada turned around to Abhiram one time when Abhiram was cleaning, and Prabhupada said, "It is simply horrible." And Abhiram replied, "No, Prabhupada. Basically, we're doing this out of love for you." So there's so much love. It transcends all these other types of motivations or attraction and repulsion. It just simply transcends, an immediate transcendence. So if we love Krishna and love Krishna's representative, it's immediately transcendent. Things become very easy at that point. That's why Bhakti Yoga is very easy. But if one is hard-hearted, stone-hearted, iron-hearted, then Bhakti Yoga is extremely difficult. So, anyway, the end of life. So the devotee consequently makes no attempt to increase his longevity. He is at once raised to the platform of liberation, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita in the 14th chapter, text 26. This important verse we'll eventually get to. Mam chiyo vyabhicharena bhakti yomina sevate sagunan samadhi jaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in unalloyed devotional service of the Lord transcends the modes of material nature and is immediately elevated to the spiritual platform. A Krishna-conscious person begins from the transcendental stage, and he is constantly in that consciousness. So we begin from the high stage, whereas in the Hatha Yoga process, that's way off. First you got a yam and niyam, pranayam, asana, pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. You got to do all these things, controlling the mind. Who knows whether you can do it, and hopefully you don't get deviated in the process, and then ultimately you come to the transcendental stage, and the Krishna conscious person begins from the transcendental stage. As Prabhupada said, therefore there is no falling down, and ultimately he enters into the abode of the Lord without delay. The practice of reduced eating is automatically done when one eats only Krishna Prasad, or food which is offered first to the Lord. And as we mentioned before, the benefit of that is the Krishna Prasad, or the food that is offered to the Lord, has a transcendental potency, and it purifies the consciousness. It is not under the modes of nature. All other food is contaminated with goodness, passion, or ignorance, or a mixture of those three modes. Usually it's a mixture of the three modes. And your consciousness gets affected. And prasadam doesn't have any modes of nature. It's just like transcendental. So just by eating, Prabhupada said, you can eat yourself back to Godhead. Not that you should try that. Prabhupada would often say when someone first came to the Krishna conscious movement, he would say, you should eat so much you could fill yourself up to your neck. I certainly did that because prasadam is just so attractive. Even though there's just so many ingredients that are in ordinary food, but once you combine them all and you offer them to Krishna, they attain a transcendental quality. Reducing the eating process is very helpful in the matter of sense control, and without sense control, there's no possibility of getting out of the material entanglement. So eating helps you control the tongue. Whereas the yogis, if you're not doing bhakti yoga, you have to be really careful what you eat. Undergo these austerities, like I mentioned, the Chaturmasha austerity, just eating unspiced boiled beans and rice for 4 months. Oh, without any salt, once a day. I mean, it's enough to drive you crazy. And we get to eat all sorts of nice, tasty things as many times in the day you want, or you need. Nice. Okay. Sarvapyete yagyavido yagyakshapita kalmasaha yagyashishta amrita bhujo yanti brahma sanatanam. Sarve, all, api, although apparently different, ete, these yagnavidaha, conversant with the purpose of performing sacrifices, yagakshapita, being cleansed as the result of such performances, kalmashaha, of sinful reactions, yagnashishta, are the result of such performances of yagna, amrita bhujaha, those who have tasted such nectar, yanti, do approach, Brahma, the Supreme, sanatanam, eternal atmosphere. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifices, they advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere. So all these different types of activities are meant to take you to the same goal. Some are the slow boat to China, sorry about that expression, and some are the very quick method. And some are a quicker method, like Bhakti Yoga is the quick method. It's immediate. Whereas the Hatha Yoga, after many, many births and deaths, one can come to the right position. From the foregoing explanation of the different types of sacrifice, namely sacrifice of one's possessions, study of the Vedas, or philosophical doctrines, and performance of the yoga system, it is found that the common aim of all is to control the senses. So that's preliminary. Sense control is preliminary to engaging in spiritual life. Except in Krishna consciousness, the sense control occurs automatically. But you have to make separate endeavor in these other processes. Sense gratification is the root cause of material existence. Therefore, unless and until one is situated on a platform apart from sense gratification, there is no chance of being elevated to the eternal platform of full knowledge, full bliss, and full life. This platform is in the eternal atmosphere or Brahman atmosphere. All the above mentioned sacrifices help one to become cleansed of the sinful reactions of material existence. By this advancement in life, not only does one become happy and opulent in this life, but also at the end, he enters into the eternal kingdom of God, either merging into the impersonal Brahman or associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So there's like two goals mentioned here. Of course, the merging into the impersonal Brahman we described as like hell, because one loses a sense of their individual personality, and ultimately they got to come back, and ultimately they don't merge. It's just apparent merging. But associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna says, Chaktva deham purnajama naiti mameti sojana. One who goes to Krishna doesn't have to come back again to this world. In other words, you go back to the spiritual world and there's activities there. You get to have fun. I mean, we are fun-loving entities. And if you go to Brahman, there ain't no fun there. It's just a cessation of problems. In other words, there's no problems. No problems, but no fun. I mean, who would want such a situation? I wouldn't. That's kind of boring, intensely boring. So, next verse. Nayam lokos jasya kutadya kutusatama. Na, never. Ayam, this loka, planet. Asti, there is. Ayagnyasha, for one who performs no sacrifice, kuta, whereas anya, the other, kuru satama, or best among the kurus, amongst the kurus. Or best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? And so Prabhupada explains that whatever form of material existence one is in, one is invariably ignorant of his real situation. In other words, existence in the material world is due to the multiple reactions to our sinful lives. Ignorance is the cause of sinful life. So in other words, sinful life is cured by knowledge, vidya. Ignorance is known as avidya. And sinful life is the cause of one's dragging on in material existence. The human form of life is the only loophole by which one may get out of this entanglement. It's the only form of life by which one can actually understand and make some choices through mature discrimination. Now, there are exceptions. Some animals can be liberated by the mercy of the devotees, not by, let's say, their own endeavor. Like Lord Chaitanya liberated some dogs. That may happen. But these are exceptions to the rule. The Vedas therefore give us a chance for escape by pointing out the paths of religion, economic development, regulated sense gratification at last, the means to get out of the miserable condition entirely. So the Vedas give us a direction how to enjoy the material world through what's called Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, which the Prabhupada mentions in this verse. That means Dharma, religion, Artha, economic development, Kama, which means some regulated sense gratification, and Moksha means getting out of the material world. The path of religion or the different kinds of sacrifice recommended above automatically solves our economic problems. By performance of yajna, we can have enough food, enough milk, etc., even if there is a so-called increase in population. When the body is fully supplied, naturally the next stage is to satisfy the senses. The Vedas prescribe, therefore, sacred marriage for regulated sense gratification. Thereby, one is gradually elevated to the platform of release from material bondage, and the highest perfection of liberated life is to associate with the Supreme Lord. Perfection is achieved by performance of yajna, sacrifice, as described above. Now, if a person is not inclined to perform yajna according to the Vedas, how can he expect a happy life, even in this body, and what to speak of another body on another planet? There are different grades of material comforts in different heavenly planets, and in all cases there is immense happiness for persons engaged in different kinds of yajna. But the highest kind of happiness that a man can achieve is to be promoted to the spiritual planets by practice of Krishna consciousness. A life of Krishna consciousness is therefore the solution to all the problems of material existence. So the other types of happiness are actually temporary, even though there's a happiness in one sense. It's temporary and limited and not even comparable to the unlimited happiness and unlimited loving exchanges one can have with Krishna in the spiritual realm. So we will end here, and as we usually do, we will take questions, but let me go back to this and take you off of mute for a second. Hold on 1 second. Okay, I saw the Praneshwara had a question. So Praneshwara, you want to ask your question?
Yes, Gurudev. My question
Okay.
is like one is doing everything for the pleasure of Krishna, not for self.
That's right.
But we are in the mode of material nature,
That's right.
like goodness, passion, and ignorance. So how to contemplate whatever I'm doing the right things, and how to verify the actions?
Yes. In the beginning, whatever mode we happen to be in, whether it's goodness, passion, or ignorance, hopefully it's not ignorance because you can't do too much in ignorance. In the beginning, whatever mode you happen to be in, then you dovetail. Dovetailing means that we're going to do something for ourselves and something for Krishna. In other words, this is called Sakama Bhakti. Sakama Bhakti means we serve Krishna with some material desire. It's not expected that one will come to the stage of Nishkam, serving Krishna without any material desire. In other words, they won't come right away to that stage. So we dovetail, like Dhruva Maharaj. He dovetailed his desire for a greater position than that of Lord Brahma. And that dovetailing, that desire, actually eventually led him to pure Krishna consciousness. So understand your desires understand your needs, and somehow or other, uh, you function in such a way to fulfill those particular needs in a regulated fashion, understanding that Krishna is the one who's going to help you fulfill those particular needs and praying to Krishna. So if you're going to have to pray to someone, you pray to Krishna. Depend on Krishna. Does that make sense?
Yes, Gurudev.
Yeah, so don't worry about it. If you have some material desires, don't get all bent out of shape. Don't start to feel all guilty. Oh my God. Oh my God. I want my business to be successful. Praneshwar is a big businessman who is now locked up because of the coronavirus. But so just pray to Krishna. I mean, if business is really important to you, then just pray, oh my dear Krishna, let my business be successful. Chant all day long, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Let me make money. Krishna, Krishna, Rama, Rama, money, money, Rama, Rama, Krishna. Money, money, Lakshmi, Lakshmi. No, no. Just chant Hare Krishna, whatever. Akama, moksha kama, akama, sarva kama, moksha kama, dharati, tuvrena bhakti yogeni yajeta purusham param. Whether one is free of material desires, full of material desires, or desires of liberation, one enthusiastically approaches Krishna. Use your whatever you desire as an impetus, understanding that it's not the goal, but begging Krishna to forgive you, and you'll be all right. All right?
Yes. Yes, Gurudev. Yes.
Don't worry, be happy. Chant Hare Krishna. I think Radha Padma has a question. So Radha Padma, ask you a question.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Yesterday we were reading something and then this verse came about demigods. So do demigods also chant the Mahamantra? Because it's somewhere written that that only on this planet Earth we are given this opportunity to chant. Even demigods want to come to this planet and perform.
No, demigods chant. I mean, look at Lord Brahma. He chants all the time. I mean, he has beads even. What's he doing with his beads? I mean, these are not just worry beads that he holds, you know, in case there's a problem in the universe. He chants, Lord Shiva chants the names of Ram. He initiated Durga Devi in the names of Ram. So there is chanting. However, on this planet in Kali Yuga, there is a special dispensation that simply by chanting the Lord's names, don't have to do anything else. You go back to Godhead. There's a dispensation. You only got to do this in Kali Yuga. But yes, there's chanting going on all over the place. I mean, Lord Shiva's chanting, Ganesh is chanting. He's a pure devotee of Krishna. He's chanting, so there's chanting everywhere.
Thank
okay,
you,
so you
Guru.
can become a demigod and you can chant. I mean, goddess.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, who else has a question? Anybody else has a question? No.
Hare Krishna Gurudev.
Okay. Sounds like Chitraleka. Is that Chitraleka?
Yes. Hello.
Oh,
Accept
good to
my
see you.
obeisances. Good to see you too.
Okay.
Thank you for the beautiful class, Gurudev. Just a question. In Patanjali's system, samadhi would be like the final stage, the
Yeah, the
objective,
final stage. Right.
which is, for what I understand, it's like pure love. So for devotees in Krishna consciousness, is it okay to say that the objective is also, well, to obviously to have
Yeah.
full Krishna consciousness, but is it equal or equivalent to samadhi?
Well, it depends on how people practice the Patanjali system. Patanjali was actually a devotee. In his Yoga Sutras, he says, Ishwara Padanaya, that the goal is actually to give your life or to be focused on Ishwara or Krishna. He doesn't get into specifics in his Yoga Sutras. However, my belief is, and actually that's mentioned by Prabhupada, Patanjali was a devotee. but he was giving a gradual process for those who wanted to follow the gradual process. So his conception ultimately of samadhi is the same as our conception of samadhi. Maybe he wasn't a devotee of Krishna and Goloka Vrindavan, playing a flute, but he was God conscious. As soon as you start talking about Ishvara, Ishvara means controller. And of course, Krishna is Parameshvara, the supreme controller. So, some people practice the yoga system, the Patanjali yoga system. Their idea of samadhi is just to be focused and to be liberated, and they have no personal conception. Other people who practice it, basically they want powers. They practice the Patanjali system so they can focus the mind and get power. So I would say that everybody has different goals when practicing the Patanjali system. It's not explicitly mentioned by Patanjali, that you can become a mother of Krishna, or father of Krishna, or a lover of Krishna, or friend of Krishna. It's not explicit. So Patanjali yoga system is preliminary. It's good. It's preliminary to coming to Bhakti Yoga. But if one takes Bhakti Yoga immediately, it's like getting advanced placement in the university, that you don't have to go through the lower grades. Just like when I went to the university, I went to Northwestern University, I got advanced placement, so most of my freshman year I didn't have to go to. Pretty much most of my courses I started in the sophomore year, sorry. I started in the the second year. So taking up Krishna consciousness means starting in the senior year. So you graduate the same year. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, one question.
Sounds like Sudharma.
Please accept my humble obeisances.
Jai.
Maharaj, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So Maharaj, on page 216, it says offers of the functions of all the senses and of the breath as oblations into the fire of controlled mind. Yeah. And our first goal is to control the senses, and the mind is so difficult. And you have so nicely explained with love.
You can do it, yeah.
With the love. So, how much can we do with the love as a mother for the children?
How much?
Yeah,
how much can you save your own children?
Yes.
You can try in an unmotivated way to do it, but it's ultimately up to the children, because everyone has free will.
And Krishna never interferes with the free will.
No, he doesn't interfere with free will.
So
Krishna's not going to go and interfere with the free will. The person himself or herself has to desire something. But you can pray. Yeah. You can pray that the person will get some lessons so they change their mind.
Yeah, that's all we can do. As you say, praying to Krishna sincerely, praying to Guru, so that Gurudev has some mercy on these fallen souls, so that they can come to their senses.
That they wake up, that they get a wake-up call. Yes. I mean, sometimes it requires like a little smashing to get a wake-up call.
So who's going to do the smashing, Guru Maharaj?
Krishna, not you. Not you. You're not supposed to do smashing. Krishna, I mean, you see this in so many instances that people get like a real wake-up call, like a traumatic experience or something like that, and it really changes their whole lives when that happens. So that happens in many circumstances, but we don't pray that someone gets smashed. That's not actually so compassionate. But, just pray that Krishna gives them a lesson. But it's up to them. People can have many lessons and never change their ways.
And I suppose we can chant for them?
Yeah, we can chant for them. We can sneak some prasadam into their diet.
Yes.
We can be loving, we can be accepting, but ultimately it's up to them. Yes. Everyone has their free will. I mean, even Krishna had a son we mentioned yesterday who became a demon. Boma. Everybody has free will. I mean, my parents didn't want me to be a devotee, and I had my free will and became a devotee. So you find this sometimes. Like in Ravana's family, Vibhishan decided to be a devotee, right?
Yes.
So we cannot save anyone. We can give someone the opportunity, but they have to save themselves, basically. Nobody can save anyone else. We can give them the opportunity, just like if you're in a burning